Hey everyone, it's time for First Chapter Fridays. Today I'm going to read Trapped Behind Nazi Lines, the story of the U.S. Army Air Force 807th Medical Evacuation Squadron. Chapter 1 The Luck of the Hunted. Before the war, when he was back home in Michigan, Orville Abbott was a hunter. He tracked and killed game such as rabbits with expert efficiency. He never thought about how the hunted animals felt. Now, as he ran into the woods, listening for the crack of Nazi gunfire, he felt a jolt of fear run through him. This, he imagined, must be what a rabbit feels just before it is shot dead. Abbott and 12 other U.S. Army medics and 13 Army nurses had crash landed in Nazi occupied Albania almost 9 weeks ago. Since then, they had walked hundreds of miles in the snow. They had climbed mountains, dodged German soldiers, and ducked under gunfire. They'd hidden in people's homes and in the woods, fought stomach-wrenching illness and malnutrition, and pressed on with gritty determination. Now they were nearly to the sea, and a boat that would take them across to safety in Italy. But in order to reach that boat, they would first have to survive yet another close call. An American officer, Captain Lloyd Smith, had made his way to Albania to help lead the stranded medical personnel to safety. He was in charge. It was Smith who had gotten hold of an old Italian truck and driver so that the Americans could make better time that night. After walking for so many weeks and so many miles, sitting in the back of an open flatbed truck, even exposed in the winter air, felt like a luxury. But on the road, they were also exposed to passing vehicles, including Nazi vehicles. When a Nazi truck approached from the opposite direction, both it and the truck and the Americans stopped. They faced each other in the dark. Smith told the driver of the truck to get out and walk toward the German vehicle. For the medics and nurses, his instructions was to wait. If the Germans turned their headlights on, they should bail out of the truck and run into the woods. They'd most likely be running for their lives. The Americans laid low and still as they could. The wind moved in the trees along the road and chilled their skin. The idle rumble of the two truck motors was the only sound. Of all the scares they had survived the past 9 weeks, this was among the most intense. When the driver got a few feet away, the German truck turned on its lights, and the entire road lit up with a glare. In a flash, the Americans leaped from the truck and ran as fast as they could for the trees. Looking back later, Abbott wrote, "I know now how the skin along the back of a rabbit must be crawling as he leaps for cover in those few split seconds before the sting of pellets rip into him, and he blacks out with the roar of a hunter's gun behind him." As they ran, the Americans listened for the eruption of gunfire, and they hoped they wouldn't be hit. None of them expected to survive this confrontation, but as they dove into the brush and scrambled deep into the woods, nothing happened. Not a single shot was fired. While their driver talked to the people in the other truck, the Americans waited. The ground was snowy and cold because they never expected to spend any time outside the barracks and hospitals where they worked. None of them had proper winter clothing. For all these weeks, they had been getting by with thin jackets and plain fraying shoes. Everyone crouched and shivered. After a few minutes, their driver came back into the glare of the headlights. He found Captain Smith waiting by their truck, and the two of them spoke quietly for a minute. Then the hidden Americans heard Smith laugh. "All aboard, come on," he yelled. "We're getting out of here." As the nurses and medics climbed back into their truck, Smith explained that the German truck had been stolen by two local Albanians. They were taking it to Allied territory so they could use it against the Nazis. The thieves had thought the Americans were the German patrol. As the two trucks passed each other and the Americans continued on through the darkness, a couple people in the back truck began to argue about luck. It was too dark for Abbott to see who was talking. A man's voice said that they had terrible luck. After all, they kept running into all these dangerous situations. Time after time, their lives were in danger. One of the nurses said they'd have terrific luck. Sure, they found themselves in bad situations, but every time they had escaped, what better luck could they ask for? Soon they reached a turnoff and got out of the truck. They carried their measly belongings toward a farmhouse hidden away from the road. Before they reached the farmhouse, they saw lights back on the road and heard the sound of Nazi patrol cars. Once again, the group hid in the trees and waited while lights were shined over the woods. Nobody moved. For a few terrifying seconds, the powerful beam of a light swept over them. It was another test of their luck. Would it be good or bad? Abbott might have thought once again about those rabbits. They were terrified of their hunters, but sometimes the rabbits didn't die. Sometimes they escaped. Trapped behind Nazi lines, the true story of the U.S. Army Air Force 807th Medical Evacuation Squadron.